Hello and welcome back again. My name is Steven Snake, and today, well, it's been a little while, I know, but today I want to look at a post that was released quite a while ago, as you can see at the top. It was submitted 18 days ago, so it's been basically 3 weeks. Now, the reason why I want to look at this is because this is actually a really interesting topic in League of Legends, and that's the whole idea around items. For a very long time now, I've always believed that the items in League of Legends were quite lacking. And they do some updates, they rework, they add, sometimes they remove items. For example, on the PBE that was released, I don't actually know if it's on the PBE yet, but a writer was talking about that they was going to be removing the Hunter's Potions, which is okay, I guess. No one really used them anyway, so who really cares? But it's actually sparked some ideas in me. And that's what I want to look at today. So first of all, let's start having a look at the item shop cleanup post. So on this post, they start talking about what they want to do. So they want to remove items, they want to rework some, and they want to add some. And we can see just from looking at some of these words here that some of this makes very little sense. And one part that I just want to highlight that I'm not a big fan of here right here is right here. This little sentence here makes 0 sense. This can make it hard to quickly find the item you are looking for and makes the sort overwhelming to both new and players trying champs or roles that use items they ain't yet familiar with. Now, the reason why I wanted to highlight that is because of the bit before it. Just that word there. Overcrowded. How in the actual fuck is the shop overcrowded? For years, people have been saying that the item shop is just, there's not enough here. It's undercrowded. Like, there's nothing. It's too small of a shop. And you're saying it's overcrowded? Makes very little sense. As I don't think you should be removing items, you need to be adding items, because the amount of items you have is so lacking here. So, whatever. They're planning on removing, so they want to remove dead items. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think removing a lot of the dead items makes perfect sense. No one uses them, so get rid of them to add items that people will use, which makes a lot of sense. Right, so anyway, what items should we remove? Unhealthy items, meaning that they massively reduce or remove counterplay against any champion. So this is where I want to have a look at League of Legends itself here. So if we take a look at League of Legends, the idea of this first point of massively reducing or removing item or removes counterplay from items. So one thing that we need to quickly look at, well, I'm not going to show you it, but one thing that a lot of people have been saying is the item of stopwatch. So stopwatch is an item that makes you invulnerable for a very brief time, and it was upgraded into both GA or Guardian Angel, or it also evolves to the one that most people are having a little bit of frustration with, being Zhonya's Hourglass. This is actually one item that a lot of people have been saying to get removed. Obviously, there's also Stoneplate, but our GA and Stoneplate, they don't get the same representation, or the negative representation that that Zhonya's does. And I don't understand this idea, because I generally don't think this item actually removes the idea of counterplay. There is counterplay in this item, it just doesn't remove it. Then you get into the next bit. Since it makes you not want to interact with the enemy team. Well, Zhonya's don't really give you that. I don't see where the idea of that once you have this item, you don't want to interact with the enemy team, because this type of item, in my opinion, kind of makes you want to fight the enemy team, because you've got this defensive tool that allows you to go invulnerable, so you can fight the enemy team, delay just enough for your team to come in. Like, GA don't really not make you want to fight. And then the final point is that it gives access to an effect, usually is usually a effect. Oh god. It gives an effect, usually reactive or defensively, that not all champions should have access to, and that's where I kind of have to agree with Hourglass. Like, I can defend Hourglass in every other area, because, cause it doesn't stop you on fighting, I don't think it removes counterplay, but yeah, it gives you a defensive option that not every champion should really have access to. There are some champions that I think shouldn't have access to this, such as, I don't know, like Veigar. I don't think Veigar should have access to a tool like this, as he has a safety box already with his Event Horizon, and the amount of damage he outputs, he shouldn't really have access to this. The same can be really said to someone like, I don't know, like Xerath. Xerath is designed to be a long-range mage, so as soon as he gets jumped on, he should just die. He shouldn't be able to delay, I don't think, but overall, I don't think this item should be removed. Same for the component item of the stopwatch. I just don't think these items are that much of a problem in the overall of the game. But I will say, there is one part of this item that I will agree with, and that's the fact that you can get it for free within runes. I do not believe that you should be getting this item for free in runes. It should be a purchasable thing only. You should not get this for free, as for 600 gold, that is a lot of value for what this item can do. So, So that's the first item I don't agree with. But not a lot of items people are talking about. So if we move on, so if we start looking for all these items and go, yeah, so what item really removes counterplay? In my personal opinion, this item does. I do not believe Thornmail deserves a spot in this game, as I think it doesn't really have a lot of counterplay in there. So let's look at the ideas of why a item that's unhealthy should be removed. Does it massively remove counterplay against a champion? Yes. The idea is that there's very little counterplay to Thornmail, because, for example, if you're picking this up against an AD carry, what does an AD carry have to do to counteract the effect? Because all items has a tool that you can use against it, and with Thornmail, you have to buy multiple things. First of all, you have to buy a lifesteal item, as one way of counteracting the damage back is by buying lifesteal. However, Thornmail also has grievous wounds on it, so your lifesteal is lower. So that's already kind of knocked out lifesteal. Second of all, the damage that it does is actually magic damage, meaning that you can buy a MR item, and the damage that you will be receiving back, which is 10% of your bonus armor plus 25, is actually lowered because it's magic damage. So, magic resist works pretty well against this item. And finally, because this item is a armor-based item, means that you need to buy some sort of penetration. Mainly a Last Whisper. One of the upgrades. So that's 3 items already just to deal with Thornmail. And it doesn't just end there. Because the second passive, Cold Steel, when you are hit by a basic attack, it reduces the attacker's attack speed by 15%, meaning that you need to buy more lifesteal, you need to buy more attack speed in your build, because this item alone is lowering you. There are 4 items that you need to buy to counteract Thornmail. That is not viable in every single AD carry's build. And that's just one item countering 4. That is a little bit obsessed. A little bit stupid, don't you think? Then you get into the idea of not interacting with the enemy team. It forces you to interact with the enemy team. You want people to auto-attack you so you can destroy just everything that they want to do. And then gives access to an effect, reactive or defensively, mainly this is defensive, that not all champions should have access to. And no, not every tank should have access to a Thornmail passive. No one should have access to this passive. And when I say this passive, I don't just mean the damage back, I mean all of it combined. I do not mind the idea of if you do damage to a tank and you get a little bit of damage back, that's fine. Ramus exists, for fuck's sake. That is fine. It's the fact that it it makes you deal damage back to yourself. It lowers your overall healing because of grievous wounds. It makes you attack slower because of attack speed reduction, and it forces you to buy a Last Whisper. That does not equal fun. Thornmail, I think, is one item that should be considered of removal, or just strip away some of these stats and just buff up the item. Because I don't mind if they do that. I do not mind the amount of damage that you receive back is higher if they remove the attack speed slow and the grievous wounds. You know, if they remove those two bits and just make you take, I don't know, like 20% of your bonus armor plus 25, that would be fine, I think. I just don't like the idea of that it's removing so many stats while also being insanely busted against an AD carry. Obviously, I'm also coming from an AD carry main, so this is, you know, it could be a little bit biased here, but Thornmail is one of the worst items to ever face. As, in my opinion, though. So, that's one item I think should have a little bit of a look at. Now, other items, you know, you can look at all these items. You know, one item I've also seen some people talk about is Quicksilver Sash. I personally do not think this is much of a problem, as all it does is it removes CC. You know, it gives you a little bit of magic resist. Heck, you could even remove the magic resist if you really fucking wanted to and buff up damage on this item. I don't know. Maybe buff it to lifesteal. I don't know. I just don't know there's really anything you can do to this item to really make it, like, not be strong. And to be honest, I just don't think it's that oppressive anyway. The next one I want to look at is this. Hex Drinker and its upgrade of Mar. This item, a lot of mage players are complaining about, saying that this item is just way too powerful in the laning phase. Now, as an AD carry, I don't think this item is that strong, but when I start looking at it in terms of how an assassin will be interacting with a mage, that's when my opinions start to change. This item, when you buy this item very early on an likes of an AZ or a Talon, when you're facing up against a burst mage such as, I don't know, Syndra or something, it makes the Syndra basically completely useless in that mid lane for a while. And a lot of the champions are rushing this Hex Drinker, meaning that very early on, they're basically taking no magic damage, which, yes, that is a little bit stupid. I think, in my personal opinion, I actually don't think this item is that healthy for the game, especially the verse version. I think Mar overall as an item is fine. I just don't think Hex Drinker should have as much power on it as it currently does, just for the mid lane. Now, for other roles, I think this item is perfectly fine. I don't mind it in top lane, bot lane, it is fine. It's just the mid lane, I think, is a little bit on the strong side, and I actually think that Riot should actually just take some of the stats off of Hex Drinker and put a lot more of the upgrade effect onto the Mar. So the idea is that the Hex Drinker is just more of a component item rather than being a item that you can sit on. As the idea of sitting on this item for a lot of mid laners, well, especially assassins into mages, is a little bit on the stupid side and definitely needs to have a little bit of a look at. Whew. So, we've had to look at some items. Obviously, I could sit here talking all the day because Riot's talked about the likes of a lot of support items, such as the Crucible. You know, right here, the Crucible. They have been talking about the likes of Locket, you know, giving defensive options to champions that shouldn't have it. There's quite a few items here, really, that a lot of people are talking about. And I have spent, literally, I'm looking at my time, I've spent nearly 15 minutes talking about League alone, and that's where I don't want to end it. So, jumping back to the post, we can just see that there are more other things there, like items too similar to another. So the idea they don't want items to cross over into each other's paths. I think a good example of this would be the Hex Drinker item, not Hex Drinker, the Last Whisper items. I think they may end up having a look at here because they are two items that are very similar. It's just that one deals more damage to tanks, the other lowers lifesteal. It's a little, or just health regen and health gaining in general, but you know, so it's a little bit on the iffy. Like, are they going to have a look at this item? Another item pair they're probably going to look at is the Hydras. I think the Hydras here are definitely going to be an item they're going to be looking at, because you have both Titanic Hydra and Ravenous Hydra. So definitely I think the Hydras they're going to be having a look at here. Other than that, then they start talking about lower usage items. You know, we obviously know a few of them, such as Ohm Wrecker. And then they are going to item reducing or not adding impactful decisions to the system. Ooh, okay. So this is something that Riot have been talking about a lot. So they want to they want overly similar versions of Zeal or tank items with near identical stats that had this problem in the past. That's very, very true. You know, we've been in many seasons now where for the idea of a Zeal item, you will always just go Static Shift or Fire Cannon, practically every game. Overpowered or always good items in the system, core items like IE. I actually don't agree with this part. I think there should be core items for every single type of champion. I think the idea of IE is fine. I think, in my opinion, I think core items for every single champion should just be like how you want to play the game. Such as if you are a mage, you should be buying the likes of Death Cap every game. I think Death Cap should be that core item, you know, that item that you go every game when you can get it. I think for AD carries, it should be the IE. For on-hit users, it should be the Rage Blade. I think there should always be that one item that you buy every single game, no matter what. But obviously, the other items should be interchanging throughout the game and constantly being shifted. And then finally, this is also true with similar component items. If we had a 500 gold item that was used sometimes instead of a ruby crystal. So this part here is just mainly talking about the idea of overlapping items. For example, I'm just going to go into AD carries again. When you look at crit items, why are there like two different crit items in general? Because not only do you have the likes of a Brawler's Glove, you also have the Cloak as well. The, what was it? The Cloak of Agility. Like, why do we have Brawler's Glove and Cloak of Agility when they both relatively do the exact same thing? You know? They are just there really to just give crit. That's practically all. Like, the Cloak of Agility gives you 20% crit, whereas Brawler Gloves just gives you 10. Like, why are there two items that do basically the same thing, just gives you different amounts of crit, as a Cloak gives you 20, Brawlers gives you 10? You know, it is a little bit weird, and I think that's definitely something that Riot's probably going to be looking at. And then they also start talking about items that they want to add, so this is all fun. I'm just going to now ignore this because I want to move on to the main thing that I wanted to talk about, which I've been talking a little while now, and I've still not gotten to that. You know, I'm almost 20 minutes in. But I want to take a look at another game, another MOBA, that I think actually does the items really well, in my opinion. That game being Smite. I generally believe Smite actually does, like, really fucking well when it comes to the idea of items and stuff like that, because if we have a look at the items, so if I just click on Illusion Carb right here and I go down to his God Builder, I click on items. So this is the item store. This is what you see every single game. These are all the items, but not really. Not all items are here, because one thing I do like about this game is that it splits off items. Not in the way of you can only buy damage items, damage dealers, or tank items or tanks, but they split every single god in this game into two different categories: AD and AP. And that's it. You know, are you a physical user or are you a magical? And what items you have access to is depending on which of the two you are. So I'm looking at a Mugen Carb, who is a AD champion. So all these items are AD items. These are all items that have in some form AD on them. And any items that do not have actually any AD stats are actually available to both champions. So tank items, for example, are available to both AD and AP, as long as they do not have any form of damage. As soon as you start adding like any type of damage onto a tank item, that's when it's automatically locked for that set of characters. So let's say, for example, let's say they add in an item that gives him, I don't know, 20 physical and then 50 physical protections. That item will no longer be available to mages because it gives you the physical damage, which I think is perfectly fine. I think that idea of this game is pretty damn good. But then we start running into problems when you start doing that because, as you know, there are very different classes on how champions want to play. So Smite gets away with this because if we look at... So we're still going to stick on physical here. If we can look at the damage-based items here. So we have power. This is just general damage. This is your physical stat. This is the one that you want to be building. Then you have attack speed. These are all your attack speed items. These are all your lifesteal based items. Penetration items, and then crit items. These are all items that are locked to physical. Because we can just look at the power, and every single item that was in attack speed, lifesteal, penetration, and crit is in here. Or mainly most of them. Which is perfectly fine. Now, if we click off a Mugen Carb, and then we go to our Posh here, and then we'll do the same, go to God Builder, click on his items, we can now see there's a little bit of a difference here in the offense tree. And then we click on all items, we start scrolling down, sure you may see a lot of items that you've noticed, like this item was on the physical side, but there was also some items that weren't, such as this item. This tree here, this tree in general, was not on the physical side. And we can see the offensive also has lost the crit option. But we click on power, all these items are now unique to mages. Not a single one of these items appeared on the physical champion of a Mugen Carb. Same for attack speed. Attack speed items are completely different. Ignore this, this is a starting item. Lifesteal is also the same. These items did not appear on the physical. And then penetration did not appear on the physical side. Now, you may be saying, what about unique strategies? This kind of destroys the whole idea of unique strategies, and in some ways, yes, it does. Because you can't be running, let's say if they add this into League, you can't run your famous crit Twisted Fate, right? But it does not remove attack speed Twisted Fate, because, as I pointed out here, there are attack speed based AP items. Because one thing that I think Smite does well is that it takes into account every single playstyle, and it allows every playstyle to work. If you want to be a auto attack based mage, you can do that. In fact, there are gods in this game. There are specifically 2 gods that run off the top of my head. Actually, no, 3 gods that run off the top of my head that are considered mage based AD carries. So we have Kronos here. He is a mage-based AD carry. We also have Freya, who's again a mage-based type of AD carry. And then we also have Sol, who is also a mage-based AD carry. These champions are all AP. They all have AP items. That's all they can build. They can't buy physical, yet they are all auto-attack based. They all can be played in the bottom lane, which I think works so fucking well, and I think Riot should be looking at what this game does for its item system. Because I just think, in general, it does a much, much better job at items. It allows every strategy to still work, while also limiting the gods, what they have access to not create balance nightmares. We've seen in the past in League where the idea of the likes of AP Master Yi, we've seen the AP Jax, we've seen Skarner going AP, we've had the the nightmare that was Kennen going AD and AP. We've had the recently of Nico with the AD and AP builds. Like, these item builds that a lot of champions that have had access to that were not considered healthy or just wasn't very popular and people hated playing against, those problems do not arise in this system. Because in this game, if you are AP, you are AP. You can't go physical. Sure, you can go from ability based to auto based, but the damage output that you'll be dealing will always be the same. You will always deal physical or you will always deal magical. And I think that is just perfect. And I just think this is a system that Riot really needs to have a look at and some way implement. Even if you do not want to split up the AD and AP builds, at least have something in there that limits champions, that allows every type of style to flourish, whether you are AD or AP, and I think that'll work out perfect. I think Kale is one of these examples of a champion in League where I just don't think there is a specific build that's really good with her. I think Kale is a champion that wants to be AP, but also wants to be auto attack based, yet there are there's only one item in the game, I believe? If I remember correctly. Like, in League, there's only one item, which is Nash's Tooth. Nash's Tooth is the only item that actually Kale likes, because it gives her attack speed, it gives her AP. It's the only item really that bolsters her strengths as a champion. And sure, you can say, what about Rage Blade? Which, yeah, sure, it kind of does as well, but not as well. And other than that, she doesn't really have much options. Which is why we see you either go full AP Kale, or you're going AD crit Kale. And either way, it's not that really good on Kale. Like, it's not the thing that Kale really wants to be looking for. She wants the AB attack speed from just looking at her kit and looking how she wants to build and stuff. So overall, I think Riot needs to have a look at this. I think the whole idea of items in League, I think, is definitely really cool, and I just really want Riot to do a good job at this, but I just don't think Riot is going to do a very good job. They never fucking have. So anyway, I'm going to leave it here. I've been talking now for nearly half an hour. I think this is enough. I want you guys down below to leave your opinions on this, as I think the idea of items in games, specifically MOBAs, is really cool, and this is one thing I'm not a big fan of in Heroes of the Storm, because I like the idea of uniqueness to champions, but even though I like the idea of uniqueness, I still think that there should be a limit. There's a limit to the uniqueness that you should have access to, as I don't think you should be giving access, because of the whole idea that, even in the post it says, they even specifically state that champions shouldn't have effects that they should have access to, and I don't think every champion should have access to all items. I just don't think that. So anyway, I'm going to end it here. Hope you guys have all enjoyed. Remember to leave all your things down below, and as always, do the normal YouTubey stuff, and I will see you all next time, whenever that will be. Until then, peace out.